Yes, finally, level 100! Oh, yeah, I've got to do it again. Ladies, gentlemen, and Haradrim of all ages, Season 1 is fast approaching for Diablo 4, and the big question on everyone's mind is quite simply, how do I level up the fastest in this season? How do I get to World Tier 4 as quickly as possible to re-enter the proper meat of the game, actually start collecting Ancestrals again, and start being able to put together proper builds? Today we're going to go over a couple of strategies, one of them being a proper route that should take you straight up to level 50, no problem, then what to do when you get past that, of course, and then another that is a bit more brain off, just farm a couple of different dungeons over and over in a way that requires much less thought. It'll slow you down a bit, but it'll still level you up pretty efficiently. Before we dive right into that, then a bit of a disclaimer that while the strat I am showing you has been adjusted and explicitly created for solo play, and this is the fastest method of doing this solo, any and all activities in the game really are sped up by doing them in a group. So if you have people to run this stuff with, you absolutely should, and we have a Discord down in the description if you want to find like-minded individuals to level with when the season hits. The second disclaimer is this is all theory based around how leveling currently works. There is a big patch that is hitting on the 18th, obviously, which could buff experience gain in various ways, and then Season 1 itself both has a seasonal questline which could be worth decent experience, and also adds in Malignant Tunnels as a full new activity that we have no idea how much XP they could actually be worth. So this is going to be the top tier fastest leveling strat as of right now, and we'll of course make some adjustments after the season drops if it's necessary. All that said, let's dive into the really in-depth route that you want to take to level up quickly. This is a modification that I've made to a general strategy used by various speedrunners, including Gymnasium, who currently holds multiple world records by following a similar route, hitting World Tier 3 in as low as 3 hours and 19 minutes while solo. So let's dive right in. At the start of the season, you will of course be level 1, and for pure leveling speed, you want to skip the campaign, because we're keeping our Altar of Lilith and map discovery progress, assuming that you have done that on the Eternal Realm. We'll all be starting with 5 bonus skill points and 5 bonus potion charges, and a whole whack of stats from the altars themselves, too. As a result of that specifically, you should absolutely start on World Tier 2. Base game launch, the strat was to go in on World Tier 1, of course, because we weren't all that strong, but we have these extra bonuses to our strength now that should make World Tier 2 much more approachable for the 20% experience gain bonus. If you are finding that you personally are struggling with World Tier 2 at any point, then just switch it down. If World Tier 2 is more than 20% slower for you to clear than World Tier 1, then it isn't really worth it, but for most people this is now totally doable with those bonuses carrying over. As well, if you can, you should use elixirs. That 5% experience bonus will add up in the end, of course. Aside from that, you have to consider your class and your build. If there is a dungeon that gives you a codex power to make you significantly stronger, you should beeline to it as soon as you're in the level range and then come back to farm afterwards, because obviously it'll make it speed up your kill time. And if it makes your kill time more efficient and you can feasibly get it, then it's worth having, simple as that. Same goes for class mechanic quests as they unlock. From level 1 you will spawn in Kiovashad if you skip the campaign, which you should. Head immediately out the northern exit of the town, and on the right there will be an event. Complete that event, then head up into Menestad and grab the waypoint there. Go north out of Menestad and you'll find a second event. Complete that event, then head southwest to a third event. Complete that, and then you want to head southwest to the Nastrava Deepwood dungeon. Complete this and you'll be sitting right around level 9 in just a few minutes, extremely quickly. There is a cellar near the dungeon, but cellars are very RNG as to whether they are or are not worth it, so I've chosen to leave those out just for the sake of consistency. After that, you want to teleport to Saragar. You will have these capital city waypoints unlocked still just by default. Those carry over, they carry between characters. It's just the side waypoints that don't, so teleport here and then exit the southwest side of the town to head to our next open world event. Then after completing it, head north to another open world event. At this point in time, if you have reached level 12, you sort of want to skip the next few steps and head directly to the Stockades dungeon that I have marked here and just farm that until you hit level 15. It is a really nice, efficient dungeon, and you can just reset it when you finish by exiting out and doing a log out and back in. If you aren't level 12, or if you found Stockades just a touch challenging even at level 12, instead head north and grab the Braced Egg waypoint, then head back out the southeast to another open world event. Northeast of here is event number 7, then southeast from there is event number 8. Once you've completed that, you should definitely be strong enough for Stockades, so follow the dotted line by teleporting back to Saragar, then continue to follow the dotted line up to Stockades, and once again, just do Stockades until you hit level 15. At this point, if you are playing Barbarian, Rogue, or Sorcerer, you should go do your class-specific quest. Get that extra power gain and the bit of XP XP from those activities. Otherwise, do stockades a couple more times until you hit around level 17. From here, you want to teleport to Ked Bardu, directly out the east exit is an event, complete it and then go straight to the Onyx Watchtower Stronghold. The enemies here are level 20 as a base, but strongholds always scale enemies to be at minimum 2 levels above you, which lets you farm it even past level 20. Your goal is to clear this place out except for the last boss so that you can repeat it. So log out and log in to reset the stronghold back to the beginning and go again. You want to repeat this until you hit level 25 or level 26. If you're playing Barbarian or Druid, you might want to wait until level 26. Then finish the stronghold completely. After that, we teleport to Menestad in the Fractured Peaks, which is a waypoint that we got earlier on purpose. Head out of the northern side and complete that event again if it's up, then go directly to Kor Dragan, our next stronghold farm area. Same process here as Onyx Watchtower, kill all the enemies, do everything except for the final boss encounter, then log out and log back in to immediately reset the stronghold and be thrown back into the entrance. This one you want to repeat until you hit level 30. If you are feeling particularly strong, you can stop here around level 28 instead, then you finish the stronghold up. After that, we teleport to the Onyx Watchtower waypoint that you got for clearing that place out before we left, and head out the southwest exit. South of here, there is another open world event, complete it if it's up, otherwise head south into the Untamed Scarps until you reach the Temple of Rot. This is going to be our new home for a long time.
I live here.
This stronghold, the Temple of Rot, is the most efficiently laid out stronghold for a solo player to farm XP. So just like the last two, farm it out, kill everything, but do not complete the actual final objective. Essentially, we're going to continue doing this until you are ready to complete the first capstone dungeon. Speedrunners have completed it around level 35 or even a little bit earlier, which means that it's possible if you have a decent build going, but I'd say that the average player wants at least level 40 before having a go at that solo. That said, once you complete the capstone dungeon, whenever you do it, you want to swap over to World Tier 3 and embrace the new hell that you've wound up in. Experience here is of course significantly increased, though for 95% of content, the monsters in this tier are all a minimum of level 50, even level 53, nothing lower than that aside from one very specific exception: strongholds. For whatever reason, because strongholds have their own level that excludes the level of the area around them, they scale on their own way, they also don't scale up level with World Tier. So we go back to the Temple of Rot, our super efficient farm location from before, and the enemies here will still only be 2 levels above you, which not only means that they still give you bonus experience for being higher level than you, but they aren't level 50, so they are much more achievable to kill than any other monsters on World Tier 3. And even better than that, because we are on World Tier 3, we also get the World Tier 3 experience bonus too, even though these monsters aren't really much harder than they were in World Tier 2. So continue farming Temple of Rot until you reach around level 50. Especially with sacred drops coming from the mobs here that we were farming for the last 10 levels or so, you should be pretty strong now compared to the World Tier that we are in, even at only level 50. At this point, we're looking to move to Nightmare Dungeon farm, as due to the XP buffs that they got in 1.03, Nightmare Dungeons are just the most efficient XP farm available in the game once we have access to them, and once we can do them properly. So your first objective here is to complete Whispers of the Dead once in World Tier 3. Your first World Tier 3 hand into the tree will always give you a Nightmare Sigil now, and that is your starting point. From here, just farm out the dungeons until you reach at least level 60. That is the minimum power I'd recommend an average player who is using a strong build takes on the next capstone dungeon, though you may want to even push it to around 65 just to make it a touch easier. Once you've completed that capstone dungeon, congratulations, you've made it to Torment difficulty. If you aren't quite strong enough to survive in the open world in World Tier 4 yet, take advantage of the same system from earlier. Go back to the Temple of Rot on World Tier 4 and farm that for a bit to get some ancestral gear and some easy bonus XP until you feel comfortable approaching the open world. Then the rest of your journey to 100 will simply be more Nightmare Dungeons once you're strong enough to do them on Torment. And that's it, really. Your full leveling path routed out one step to the next. Of course, feel free to stop at any point to collect renown, to do your class quests if you didn't do them when I said to, take breaks from farming Nightmare Dungeons in World Tier 3 to run some Hell Tides as well, because you'll want to start building up your Forgotten Souls, as those are quite important to have a nice stash of in your inventory, stuff like that to just take care of your character in the long run. But I didn't mention those in the route, as they simply aren't part of the XP grind. They slow you down. Realistically, they are optional stops along the way that will help you out a bit to reach higher power than you would otherwise be at that point. All that said, earlier on I said it would also give you a much more brain off route if you want to just sort of farm a couple of spots over and over. It will simply be slower than what I've just laid out, of course, not a crazy amount, but definitely slower, but it lets you farm relatively efficiently while still being able to just sort of go through one singular dungeon for a while, so you can just passively watch stuff in the background, or whatever you want to do while farming itself is made simpler. The first stop on your journey is going to be the Forsaken Quarry Dungeon up here in the Fractured Peaks. You want to get here by heading out the northern side of Kyovashad and doing any events along the way, as that zone has level 5 base monsters, so you just slurp up a bit of bonus XP on your way to the dungeon itself. itself. In here, just complete the first objective, the slay all enemies, then reset the dungeon and do it over again. You want to repeat this until you are about level 12, then teleport to Saragar and go to the Stockades dungeon. You can full complete this dungeon if you want before resetting, but the last boss can be a bit of a challenge while you are under leveled, so keep that in mind if you want to reset earlier. Either way, farm Stockades until you are around level 20. Then you want to head to the Carrion Fields dungeon out here on the western side, again completing events on the way there to boost your level just that little bit further, and then farm this dungeon until you hit level 28. At that point, just head right to the Temple of Rot Stronghold and farm that until you're feeling capable of doing the first capstone dungeon. Do that dungeon when you can, then continue farming Temple of Rot but in World Tier 3 until you're strong enough for Nightmare dungeons, at which point, yeah, you're just back on the farming Nightmare dungeons train. Simple as that. Again, this way of doing things is definitely slower, but it only requires you to spend time in 4 different locations, so it is much simpler. It depends if you're after pure efficiency or if you want decent efficiency, but don't want to follow an entire leveling route actively the whole time, which I understand, and that's why I've given this alternate option. That's it then everyone, a fully laid out leveling path for extreme efficiency, and a simpler one if you just want to stop at only 4 locations along the journey. Your choice, but both are quite good and should make your journey leveling up to the point of Nightmare Dungeon Farm significantly easier than if you were just wandering around doing whatever pops up. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, this is all before the patch that will hit on the 18th, as well as before we know the rewards for the seasonal questline and also for Malignant Tunnels themselves. It's probably going to be worth doing at least a little bit of the seasonal questline super early on so that Malignant Hearts can start showing up, as those might well boost your power significantly and let you swap to more efficient farming locations even earlier than the levels I've noted down here. Regardless of that though, regardless of what level you are switching, these are the locations that you want to hit up. These are the places you want to go and the order that you want to do them in realistically. The only question is if somehow Malignant Tunnels turn out to be a massive source of XP, but I'll be making another leveling guide day 1 of the season once we have that information, so you know if anything needs to be adjusted if that's the case. In any case, I hope this all helps you out quite a bit. I hope it makes your leveling journey smoother, and it should be a major step in feeling prepared, properly prepared for Season 1 itself, dropping on July 20th. Like if you liked the video, subscribe and hit the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.